Hello and welcome to LTC Heroes Live by Experience Care. I'm excited today to talk to a former guest, one of the first guests on LTC Heroes. Annette Greely was one of the early ones, and we talked about change management. It was a show that went viral right when we were beginning, almost a year and a half ago, Annette. But today we are asking her to talk about how to empower younger generations. So Annette is the president and CEO of Harrison Residence, and I've asked her to bring in a young mentee, a younger generation, to talk about how they're doing empowerment. And she's brought in Megan Kowalke. How do I do, Megan?
You got it.
Oh, why? I promised I would be the first person to make a mistake. I at least a 10 dismount on that one. Ladies, welcome to LTC Heroes. Let's start with you, Megan. How did the two of you meet?
So I actually went to the University of Wisconsin, Eau Claire. They have a healthcare administrator program over there. And in your fourth year, you do a full year internship. So they have lots of partners with long-term care facilities all over Wisconsin, Minnesota, even some in Colorado and Arizona. So you could really go anywhere and do your internship. So you have to interview, and I actually ended up in a facility in Madison, but that one ended up not working out. So then I got connected with Annette, and I finished my internship off here at Jones Harrison.
So tell me about the internship application process. Did you meet Annette quickly? Did she reply to your email? Did you meet her after a month into your job? Tell me about that first impression that you had of her.
So you start your internship in June. So I did 3 months at the previous facility. And so because of their issues, I had to look for another facility. So the school really helps facilitate that. You send your resume, you have letters of recommendation that you send over. You do a little quick interview. I met with both Annette and Chantal, who was the previous administrator, and it just ended up that we picked each other, and Annette agreed that I'd be a good fit.
Annette, I sense in my interactions with you that you have an eye for up and coming leaders. Do you remember your first impression of Megan, and when you started to realize this is a person that I want to keep around beyond the internship? This person is going to be a leader at our organization.
Yeah, my first impression of Megan was one of maturity. And when we actually had her start working with us, her ability to engage and have self-initiative was very impressive to me.
Thank you.
What I love about these organic conversations, a lot of times we're so busy, and not only in long-term care, but in any job, we often don't have the times to tell somebody with that emotion behind it of why we want to work with them. Megan, tell me about the learning curve for you, because you went from intern and then also current you are the assistant administrator. Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay. So tell me about the learning curve and what was special about Annette's leadership team to empower you and to start to learn and feel comfortable and lean on her for your weaknesses and really blossom for your strengths.
Sure. So previously to my internship, I really hadn't worked in long-term care before. I had been very close with my great-grandparents, my grandparents. So that's really what drew me into the long-term care field. But none of my grandparents had been in a nursing home or in a long-term care facility. So really coming in, I was very green, not sure what to expect, but you learn quick. You learn that your residents are why you're here, and that's really important. I think Annette obviously had a little bit of a different start. She started as a CNA and worked her way up. And so she kind of had that experience that I didn't, but was able to show me that experience and help me, I guess, become the leader that I am working towards becoming today.
Well, small pause. I don't think I've told Annette. Annette, I became a CNA in the state of Kansas.
I saw that. I saw that on your post. Yeah. I think that's fantastic.
Thank you for your inspiration. Annette, do you remember any particular conversations or one-on-ones or in a group setting where Megan started to really stand out and you said, this is not a short-term intern, short-term employee. This is someone I want here 5 years from now. I want her to be a leader of Jones Harris residents?
You know, for all the new people coming into our industry, and they're coming in during COVID with extra stressors that they normally wouldn't have trying to come into our industry for a career, Megan jumped into that environment and just started running. I mean, she didn't shy away from the conversations that we had to have with families. She didn't shy away from the letters that we wrote together to inform our families and our residents and the staff, because we had to do a lot of education and support for our staff because that was the vaccination phase too, and there was a lot of challenges in our industry for staff wanting to take that, and there's still some challenges for our industry, but through being present and being listening and being a good leader and a good communicator, we achieved, I think we're at 96+% vaccination with our staff and pretty much 100% of our residents. And that's not an easy thing to jump into right out of an internship and right into a job, is to have to commandeer the challenges of an unknown pandemic and the government changes and challenges that come with that. So those are the things that she had to do right away, on top of managing normal long-term care functions.
Annette, I sense, because you're passionate about talking about change management and you're passionate about culture, that you have some tangible, the word's not stepping stones, you have some tangible pauses along your empowerment process of younger leaders where you check in and you start to realize, this is how the person responds to crisis, or this is how the person responds to challenge or emotional turmoil or staffing issues. Are there any specific examples that you have set up at your organization, either in a one-on-one, a certain way you ask a question, or the way you've set up a survey, or the way that you ask someone to talk about themselves in a group, that you could share that might be an inspiration to other leaders around the country of how you've found and cultivated your relationship with Megan?
I would say Megan and I talk every day. And one, you have to have open communication. Your door has to be open. My job is to help Megan get through experiences that she hasn't had before. And you can take all the college courses that you want, the HR, but until you actually have to deal with a hiring and a firing, a disciplinary action, I don't do things for her. I hope she would try not to do, and let her, she's got to do it. And I think how the culture that we did is we created that open door. We talk daily. We have our leadership team meets weekly. And when we do that, we meet in my office, and that's a private space. That's our space. That's our ability to discuss things in the manner that we might need to for stress release, or, just to bounce off different ideas that might not be the right place to do in a larger group. So we created a small, our leadership team, we're in our organization, we meet weekly to talk about all those things, create that safe space for our leadership and help each other. And I think all of us in our leadership team have that open door. Megan, we can run to HR or CFO or me, and same thing, we can all go to each other to help each other at that time. And I think that's the key. It's the communication, setting those standards that, how I was talking about standards, that we all have the same values and standards on how we want our staff to be treated, how our residents and families to be treated. And we work together on a daily basis for that.
Megan, I know that you're 20 years younger than I am, so you might not have worked in 15 different offices and organizations, but you've at least worked in two that you've mentioned so far. If you were to describe the environment at Jones Harrison residence that you walked into, how would you describe it? How would you tell a friend in long-term care who's thinking about moving over and looking for applying to a job? How would you describe the work environment that you two have created there?
I think Jones Harrison's work environment is different from other facilities in our in our industry. I actually had a tour walk in, and they're like, "This is not how normal nursing homes are," and I think that it's a good thing. You walk down the hall, and people are saying, "Good morning, hello, how are you doing?" And that's like how a family works together. I mean, most of us joke here that we should just live here. Our family's here. We spend most of our time here, and that's huge. That's why people want to come to work.
I think a lot of times when someone has worked most of their life at a great organization, they might hear your words and say, "Oh, that sounds like fluff," but they don't realize that this is not the case. Like, I did my clinicals at a place that I never learned the nurse's name. He or she never spoke to me. I only learned the name of two other CNAs. We were never introduced to anyone who came in from agency. When we had a stand-up, the people who came around, if we could read their tags, we might be able to know their name. But work environment cannot be taken for granted. Is there anything, Megan, that you can speak to from Annette's leadership that when you watch her walk around, or the way that she leads meetings, or even the way she just addresses residents, that inspires you and say, that's something I want to improve upon. I want to be like Annette in that way?
Annette is so smart. She's like, she says she calls herself a professional student, and she really is. She's always learning something, and that's, I think, especially in our industry and in our organization, since we're all ourselves, we're our little facility, we don't have corporate above us, that learning is continuously needed. If you're not learning every single day, you're going to fall behind, and you're not going to be at that quality of care that you want to give. And I just want to keep learning.
Annette, how does that feel to be to hear those words?
I am a professional student, so and I think that is key. I mean, the whole organization, we want to empower all of our staff through knowledge, and I encourage conferences and even working with some consultants to come in and help us look at things differently. Megan is right. We don't have a corporate and regionals and such, so we create our own ability to find those resources and to make sure that we keep learning, because that in our industry, as it's changing, everything we hear from CMS or the state, we have to be able to, read, interpret, and apply, and that's all part of learning.
I find that a lot of times people think of opportunities for career advancements in either salary or in titles. But I find that smarter, go-getter people are thinking about opportunities for learning. So when you talk about being a professional student, it kind of is a perfect segue for me to think about, Megan, in terms of what do you want to learn next? Assuming that you're going to be the assistant administrator for the next 2 years, you can still grow inside of that role. What is your next step that you're either learning from Annette or you're learning from someone else in your community today?
I think I want to continue to learn to be a leader, to be able to lead my team into new ideas and not being stuck in the old ways. Like, just because we did something like this for the last 20, 30 years, is that really the best way? I want to encourage my team to continue to critical think into a way that brings us into the future. Me particularly, I want to complete my licensing and then go on to the assisted living licensure, and then move forward into the health executive license and keep learning that way.
That's exciting. I want to just take a brief moment to thank Experience Care. Experience Care is the sponsor of LTC Heroes. Experience Care is one of the oldest and best electronic healthcare records in long-term care. Go over to www.experience.care to check out what they're doing today with their new point of care module. Megan, I was really excited to talk to you. And before you jumped on and hit record, I was telling Annette how much I appreciate and admire her. And when I wrote to her, I think Candace and I reached out to you, Annette, about in December. I said, I want to have you on again. What topic do you want to talk about? And you said, I want to talk to you about the younger generation. I want to talk to you about Megan. Annette, at a larger level, what optimism do you have about either the staffing crisis or the younger generation that's following in our footsteps? Because a lot of time there's a lot of pessimism right now. You're an optimistic person. Let's end on a high note.
Yeah, to end on a high note, I do have, when you engage with students such as Megan and programs like Eau Claire, and then that's one thing, we need to create stronger engagement with post-secondary for development in all areas, and not just nursing, but administrators, IT, facility management. For all the challenges that the pandemic has put us through, the positive for me is that our industry is taking a different look at how we recruit, how we engage other educational systems, workforce centers. We have a Department of Economic and Employment Development in Minnesota. Getting engaged with them to create, I see the positive now is that we are moving towards a long-term sustainable recruitment and education system for our future workforce. We have a lot of positive things to offer. We have relationships and flexibility that a lot of other industries can't offer. And I think now we've found our voice, and I think we're going to move to the future. I mean, my goal, I always tell Megan, is I want to retire someday knowing that there's somebody taking care of our seniors and our staff, and that they're advocating for our seniors and our staff. And there's some working with the younger group and helping them see the larger picture of what long-term care is, no matter what the setting, that it's a higher purpose of being and serving. I think we do have a bright future.
And that kind of coming up, kind of to share something that's working for you with the rest of the industry and those that will watch this. You've worked in a number of different organizations. What's something that you all are getting right at Jones Harrison Residence that is working that you didn't have in a previous organization, that is low-hanging fruit that you could say, hey, if you're not doing this, do it. I wish I would have done this 10 years ago. I wish I would have had this 20 years ago when I was first starting out. Go out and do this.
I would say I guess I've been at some different organizations, and I think the one thing that we're doing different here is engagement of staff at all levels. And I know some organizations, encourage that, but I think it comes deeper when you try to live it, when you're talking to that, like I said, and the other, like talking to that housekeeper, talking to the dietary people, and listening to them to make better decisions for the overall organization. And I feel at Jones Harrison, we try to communicate directly on the floor with our staff and take their feedback. And if we can't do something, you tell them why you can't. And so we have tried to really encourage a level of transparency with everyone.
Well, ladies, it's been amazing to hear your experience and your relationship. You can feel it. And I appreciate you both joining. If you have any frontline heroes at your organization that you want me to highlight, because I know that you guys are doing the trickle down effect of your leadership, please reach out to me. Thank you for joining LTC Heroes, and have a great rest of your week. And Annette, I hope to see you at a convention soon.
Yeah. Thanks for inviting us.
Thank you.
Thanks, Megan. See you all soon.
Yeah, bye.